Owning the frame during an interaction means being able to set the rules of how that interaction is going without letting yourself being interrupted by the other person's thinking. In this video, we are going to study a clip from a well-known movie you have probably seen called Good Will Hunting and see what we can learn from it. I will break down that conversation with my new model of communication called Magical Linguistics, which, yes, is just a sleight of mouth, but a reduced, simplified version of it that I think will be easier to digest for the newcomers in the field of persuasive linguistics. This scene is not starting with our main character being Will Hunting here, but with his friend, and I think it is interesting to study what is happening from the beginning in terms of social interactions.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
So do you ladies,
How often?
do I come here? I come here a bit. I'm here, from time to time. Do you go to school here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So I think I had a class with you.
Oh, yeah? What class?
History.
Maybe.
Yes, I think that's what it was. You don't necessarily, might not remember me. I like it here. It doesn't mean because I go here I'm a genius. I am very smart. Hey, how's it going? How are you?
Good, how you doing?
You want it?
What class did you say that was?
History. Yeah.
Just history? It must have been a survey course then, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was surveys.
Right.
You should check it out. It's a good course. It'd be a good class.
How'd you like that course?
Frankly, I found the class, rather elementary.
Elementary.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that it was.
Yeah.
I remember that class. It was just between recess and lunch.
Clark, why don't you go away?
So before going into the more advanced linguistic structures of what is going to happen in this conversation, that moment with Ben Affleck right here is interesting because what you see, in my opinion, here is the best way to cancel aggressiveness, because the blonde dude is approaching obviously with the intent of causing some trouble, and Ben Affleck can definitely notice that in the movie, but he's not reacting to it. He's pretending he doesn't understand what the intent of the guy is and just saying, yeah, hey, cool, dude, and going back to his conversation. In my opinion, that is the best way to handle somebody trying to cause trouble, because if you don't respond right away with the same aggressiveness, then many people will just pass their way.
I was just hoping you might give me some insight into the evolution of the market economy in the southern colonies. My contention is that prior to the Revolutionary War, the economic modalities, especially in the southern colonies, could most aptly be characterized as agrarian pre-capital.
All right, of course that's your
Hang on a
contention.
second.
You're a first-year grad student. You just got finished reading some Marxian historian, Pete Garrison probably. You're gonna be convinced of that till next month when you get to James Lemon. Then you're gonna be talking about how the economies of Virginia and Pennsylvania were entrepreneurial and capitalist way back in 1740. That's gonna last until next year. You're gonna be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood, talking about, the pre-revolutionary utopia and the capital-forming effects of military mobilization.
As a matter of fact, I won't, because Wood drastically underestimates the impact
Wood
of
drastically underestimates the impact of social distinctions predicated upon wealth, especially inherited wealth. You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too.
And the great first introduction of our main character here. What they are doing from a purely linguistic perspective, if we remove the content of the discussion, is debating on the specifics, which I won't break down in deep details because I am not making videos on political science. But what is interesting, now that he has the attention because he has demonstrated some superior intellectual value in this conversation, where is he going to lead that next?
You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too. Were you gonna plagiarize the whole thing for us? Do you have any thoughts of your own on this matter? Or is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls? Embarrass my friend?
So he's calling out to the intent of his interlocutor by explaining out loud, which may be very uncomfortable for the other guy, explaining out loud, you're just trying to impress some girl by embarrassing my friend. Or like the reason you spit out all of this impressive science is just because you want to impress some girl. First of all, that is therefore a pattern here because you are pulling the person to back to his intention or her intentions. And also my interpretation is that it is placing him, Will Hunting here, it is placing him as an authority, not just on the cognitive abilities, but also on the social matter. He is able to accurately read the social situation and point out what is really happening, according to his map of the world. But considering the other guy is not responding, he probably made a point.
Embarrass my friend? See, the sad thing about a guy like you is in 50 years, you're gonna start doing some thinking on your own, and you're gonna come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Seeing no reaction from his interlocutor here, his opponent in this situation, Will Hunting can probably in the back of his head realize that he made a point and therefore he's continuing with his argument, which here he is leading toward a future outcome, appealing to an imaginary future, which in that context specifically is aimed at lowering the ego of the guy who was trying to get the edge in this social situation. By saying in 50 years you will realize you spent all that money for nothing, basically.
Yeah, but I will have a degree. And you'll be serving my kids fries at a drive-thru on our way to a skiing trip.
And now we are getting at the core of what verbal self-defense truly is. Our friend, the blonde dude, or kind of the opponent here, is probably not that much of a complete idiot either, so he's also reading the situation. He's noticing that Will Hunting and his friends probably don't come from a rich background, they probably come from a lower social class, at least compared to him, and he's pointing out to his map of the world, which is, well, at least I will have more status than you do, than you will ever have, my dear friend, by saying, but at least I will have my degree while you will just serve fries to my kids. What this means is he's pulling back to his map of the world, so the alternative map in that model, pulling the attention back to what you value in your own map of the world, in what you consider important. What this guy considers important, here at least, is status. He puts status on a higher pedestal than intellectual cognitive abilities, apparently. And that is actually pretty common, at least from the guys I saw in my country attending, for example, high-level business schools. From day one, the big names of that school were telling all the newcomers, you all are the leaders of tomorrow. So when you get into a school and you get your ego filled up like this right from day one, obviously you tend to naturally put status, at least the social status presented by the degree, on a higher pedestal than most people around you who may not have attended the same schools.
To a skiing trip.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but at least I won't be unoriginal. But I mean, if you have a problem like that, I mean, we could just step outside, we could figure it out.
Oh man, there's no problem. It's cool.
It's cool?
Yeah.
Cool.
Fucking damn right it's cool. How you like me now?
And Will Hunting here is responding into the specifics of, yes, but at least I will have my own way of thinking, something like this, which is not that smart, but he's leading right away, not staying there, not staying in the frame of the other guy. He is breaking the frame again and leading it with a pattern interrupt, or what I would consider personally a pattern interrupt here, because he is shifting extremely rapidly the level of aggressiveness in that conversation by commenting on a potential physical fight that may happen right away, and his behavior is kind of changing, altering, so that he's portraying, yes, you and I are gonna fight right now if you don't shut up. That may be a shock for most people, especially people who are not used to physical fights. The reason I would consider this a pattern interrupt at this moment, whereas it may just be a basic comment, but I say it is a pattern interrupt because he has been staying in the field of intellectual discussion for like 5 minutes. And now right away he's moving into a completely different type of conversation, which is, okay, how do we lead to physical fight? That is completely different. And from my understanding, he has exhausted the mental capacities of the blonde dude by exchanging all the rhetoric on the economics he pulled out in the beginning. That is kind of, first of all, confusing for somebody who is just used to be on top all the time. Right now he's being challenged mentally, cognitively, so it is already lowering his ego and making him maybe more tired mentally or less able to use his resources because he had to defend in a way that maybe he never had to defend before verbally. From there, with somebody who is already lowered in the social situation because he's not leading anymore, now having somebody that aggressive coming, he is not anymore in a place where he feels confident at all. So that's why I think pulling out the option of a physical fight with somebody who is already lowered in his mental capacities and in the social role he is having in this moment, I consider this a big interruption because there's not many chances the guy is going to respond in a confident way anymore in this situation.
You're an idiot.
What?
You're an idiot. I've been sitting over there for 45 minutes waiting for you to come and talk to me. But I'm tired now and I have to go home. And I couldn't sit there anymore waiting for you.
Well, I'm Will.
Skylar, there's my number. So maybe we can go out for coffee sometime.
All right, yeah. Do you like apples?
Yeah.
Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?
Another way to explain this that I had outlined on a video on Jordan Belfort, it is that any conversation can go from a very mild disagreement or pretty positive, gentle conversation to a very deadly, difficult, dangerous conversation that is leading almost to a physical fight. If you are just on the green square in a conversation and you jump right away on the red square or like the orange square, that is very confusing. That is where I tend to call that a pattern interrupt because it is too confusing to go that fast for somebody else who may not be used to confrontations of that level. Usually, if something is going wrong, it will go step by step. You will seldom, if ever, see a fight in the street that did not start higher on that scale. I don't think outside of assassination or like mafia, organized crime, I don't think outside of those fears, it is possible to get right away on the red square. Usually, confrontation will start way higher. First, it is about some pushback, some mean comments, and later it escalates. What Will Hunting is doing here is jumping right away from like the blue square to almost to the red sphere right away, which in a real context is definitely not something I would recommend anyway. I would not recommend the physical fighting to try to prove each other's wrong, not at all. But I mean, what I find interesting is the flexibility, being able to be flexible depending on who is the interlocutor in front of you. If you only have one tool, one hammer, one arrow in your toolbox, that will be difficult to defend verbally against a wide range of people who try to drag you down or who try to impose rules on you that you don't really like. If you are flexible though, if you can remain and stay flexible, then the question of who is right, who is wrong becomes irrelevant. We don't care anymore about are you right, are you wrong, we just care about who is the most flexible person, because when you mature in life, you may discover for yourself that this is how leaders lead the world. They don't lead by oppressing, they lead by staying flexible to adapt to all the situations that are being presented to them. If you want to discover more in details how to develop your skills with verbal self-defense and any kind of reframing that happens on the linguistic level, you can download the document down below called The 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, where you will learn many of those patterns and how to adapt them based on the person you are interacting with.